Joseph in Egypt. Joseph in Egypt tells the story of a family of shepherds in the land of Canaan and highlights the life of Joseph, the youngest and most beloved son of Jacob. The story portrays how he approaches God and how he is treated by his brothers, who envy his relationship with his father and the honor he receives. José's journey is a lesson in faith, perseverance, and love for others. Long ago, in the land of Canaan, there lived a family of shepherds, Jacob and his 12 sons. Joseph was among the youngest. Of course, Jacob loved all of his sons, but there was something about this youngest son that touched the father's heart in a special way. Joseph loved hearing about God. He could sit for hours on his father's lap learning how God had called his great-grandfather, Abraham, to serve him, and had chosen their family for a very special purpose. Joseph's family should be called God's people, his appointed witnesses to all the world. As the story unfolded, the Lord became very real to Joseph, and he wanted to serve him with all his heart. How different his brothers were. They just wanted to have fun, and the things they did brought shame to the family name. As Joseph grew up, his father loved him more and more, for Joseph was everything a son should be: good, obedient, honoring his father in everything he did. He became his father's trusted servant, and this angered his other sons. They were jealous that Joseph was loved and trusted more than them. They never missed a chance to be mean to Joseph, and they despised all the good he did. But God's loving care was so real to Joseph that he told the Lord his problems. And the Lord never failed him. With God's help, Joseph found that he could forgive his brothers and continue to love them, no matter how cruel they were. When Joseph was 17 years old, his father gave him a beautiful tunic. This was a mark of honor, to show that Jacob was pleased with his youngest son. Wearing this tunic put Joseph in a place above his brothers. And Joseph deserved that honor because he served his father better than others. But of course the brothers didn't see it that way. They envied Joseph so much that they hated him. It got even worse after hearing about a strange dream that Joseph had. As they talked about this dream, their hatred grew. They mocked Joseph and tried to make it look like he was lying, pretending to have a dream like that just to make himself bigger and more important. Afterwards, Joseph told his family about a second dream he had had. This time the sun, moon and 11 stars seemed to come and bow to him. Now even Jacob rebuked his beloved son. "Do you mean that me, your mother and your brothers will bow to you as if you were a king?" As much as Jacob loved and trusted his son, he would hardly think of him as a king. But as the days passed and he saw how humble, good and faithful Joseph was, Jacob began to think that those dreams were sent by God. However, the brothers do not. Dreams or not, they wouldn't have Joseph telling them what to do. And so, in their hearts, an evil purpose began to grow. One day they were in the mountains tending their father's sheep, and in the distance they saw Joseph. Here comes that dreamer. Now is our chance to get rid of him for good. They quickly conspired. We'll kill him. Then we'll see what happens to your rich dreams. Then, without warning, they surrounded Joseph. They took off his beautiful tunic that caused them so much envy, and they were ready to kill their own brother. At that moment, Reuben, one of the oldest children, saw a deep hole nearby and had an idea. Instead of killing Joseph, they would throw him down the well. It would be a slow death for Joseph, from starvation and decay, but what Reuben intended was to come back later and help him escape. So, before Reuben has a chance to do something about it, a caravan of merchants was passing by on its way to Egypt. The brothers decided this was a better way to get rid of Joseph. They sold him for 20 pieces of silver. Now the merchants would drive him away. The brothers thought they would never see Joseph again. A little animal blood smeared on Joseph's tunic made Jacob believe that a wild animal had killed his beloved son, and he would never know what really happened. The conspiracy against Joseph seemed to work without a hitch. Poor José. He was a slave in a foreign land, despised and abandoned. The faithful and obedient son, who loved and served God with all his heart, came to the depths of grief and shame. But Joseph knew that his heavenly Father would never abandon him. And his faith grew stronger as his trials grew worse. Joseph served as a slave for 6 years and then spent 7 years in prison for something he had not done. But in the end, God wonderfully rewarded his faith. Suddenly, Joseph became a great prince in Egypt as a result of having interpreted one of Pharaoh's dreams. And because of Joseph's wisdom and skill, which were given by God, he became governor over all the land of Egypt, second only to the king. For 7 years of bountiful harvests, Joseph stored food in large storehouses, as the Lord told him that famine would come. And the hunger came. In every land, the fields and pastures burned under the hot sun. There was no food anywhere for livestock and people. And Joseph's brothers in Canaan were hungry like everybody else. But there was food stored in Egypt. When the sons of Jacob heard about this, they came a long way from Canaan and stood in line to ask for help. They bowed down to Joseph, the great prince of Egypt, not knowing that he was their brother. How strange Joseph must have felt when he recognized his brothers. The dreams that had infuriated them so much had really come true. God himself made it so. And when Joseph finally told his brothers who he was and forgave them for the way they had treated him, the brothers could see that Joseph was blessed because he obeyed God. However, this did not happen overnight. Joseph's whole life had led him to this point. As a child, Joseph had loved his father and had learned to obey him. As a young man, God blessed Joseph's obedience and made him a favorite child. And even when he was in chains, Joseph trusted in the Lord. And for his unshakable faith in God, Joseph received honor and respect for the rest of his life. If we face trials and problems today with the same trust and obedience to God, we can look forward with great anticipation to that wonderful day when we will be rewarded. 1 Corinthians 2 verse 9. Conclusion. Joseph's story is inspiring and shows that, with God's help, it is possible to overcome adversity and forgive those who hurt us. In addition, the story also highlights the importance of humility and obedience to parents. We invite you, who watched the video, to dive into this incredible story. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video with your friends.